I think we've all been there. When you turn the corner, you see an amazing scene with a lot of potential unfolding in front of you. The light seems to be hitting the subjects correctly, the composition, you can see it coming together in your mind. You know, you have a gut feeling that something special is unfolding in front of you. So as you get closer and as you start to think about pulling the camera up to your eye and hitting the shutter button, you freeze. You are gripped by this fear and this anxiety that you can't quite explain. And so instead of overcoming that and allowing yourself to get outside of your comfort zone, you just keep walking and the moment disappears. And for the longest time, I thought that when I experienced that anxiety and that fear, that I just wasn't cut out for street photography. I just thought that I didn't have the confidence that I admired in others, and that this specific type of photography was not for me. But I realized I was wrong. That anxiety and that fear that I felt wasn't a flaw in my personality, it was just a mismatch in the gear that I was using. So today in this video, we are going to be talking about how choosing the right focal length will help you to overcome this fear and anxiety, get out of your own head, and start taking the photos that you know you are capable of taking. When we first start out, we think that to overcome this anxiety, we need distance. And so in photography terms, that distance means a longer focal length. Think a 90mm or even a 135. You think in your head, I don't want anyone to notice me, so I'm gonna stand half a block away, take the pictures that I want, and then continue on without being noticed. However, the ironic part is that by doing that, you actually stand out way more than you would if you injected yourself into the scene. And the truth is that when you use a long lens like that, you are not a part of the scene, you're surveilling it. You are not becoming a part of it, you're just a fly on the wall, and every movement feels exaggerated. Everything that you do becomes amplified, and instead of feeling like you're undercover or not being noticed, you actually end up feeling more exposed by doing that. And on the flip side of that, using a wider focal length, let's say a 24, 27, or 28, forces you to get sometimes aggressively close to the subject. And if you are just starting out or newer in your photography journey, that may be too big of a hurdle to jump at that point. So if you don't want to go with a longer focal length and you don't want to go to something closer to the ultra wide end, what is the right focal length? And for most of us, it's going to be that kind of sweet spot, that 35 to 50mm range, and I'm going to explain why. When you look through those lenses, what you see with your actual vision, with your actual eyes, is typically what's going to be captured with the sensor using one of those focal lengths. It naturally becomes an extension of what we already see. When you lock yourself into just one focal length, something actually really incredible happens, and it's your cognitive load drops. The bandwidth that you were using to make these decisions, especially if you're using a zoom, those decisions don't have to be made anymore because you're locked into that one length. If you're using, I'm speaking in cropped format sensor, but an 18 to 55, you're always thinking, should I zoom in? Should I zoom out? Should I move closer? Should I move back? When you're just using a 35 or just using a 50, those decisions are all made for you. And so you don't have to worry nearly as much about the technical aspects of the photography that you want to do. And you can focus more on composing the shot, framing the shot, finding the light, finding an interesting subject, more about the artistic side and less about the technical side. Another cool thing happens is when you continue to use these focal lengths for months and especially years on end, you start to see in that focal length. You can approach a scene with the camera still down at your side and know exactly what the viewfinder is going to look like when you do hold it up to your eye. You start to see things in a completely different way. And again, the camera becomes a natural extension of what you're already surveying around you. So the question is how do you actually apply this theory into practice. The first one is to, if you only have a kit zoom lens, make a promise to yourself that for the next X amount of weeks or X amount of months, you're only going to use one focal length, preferably again a 35 or a 50 millimeter equivalent. Or if you have the ability and the means, get yourself an inexpensive prime lens in one of those focal lengths and commit to only taking that one lens out when you go out and shoot. Don't take the zoom as a backup, because what's going to happen is that as soon as that anxiety starts to creep in, you're going to have the kind of temptation to switch it out for that zoom lens and kind of crank it to a longer focal length and start reverting back to those old habits. The second one is more of a mindset kind of thing, and that is, as a street photographer, we have to embrace proximity. We have to understand that we are going to have to get maybe a little closer than we would want to complete strangers on the street. That is just the name of the game. We are going to have to just, not to sound too harsh, but we just have to kind of get over it. We have to take little steps every time that we go out to just force ourselves to be more comfortable. You can do that in many ways. Some of the some quick, easy tips is to, when you go out, smile. Look at the people around you. Don't put your head down. Don't wear earbuds and kind of block out, the people around you. Be open. Your body language says more than you could ever possibly imagine. And if you're kind of hunkered down, or you're quickly just snapping a photo, putting your camera away and trying to, scurry off before anybody notices you, or you have your headphones in and you're just kind of trying to ignore everyone around you, that is going to say more in terms of, maybe this guy's kind of shady, maybe he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing. But if you're open and you're standing up straight and you're smiling and you're conversing with the people around you, that is going to disarm a lot of people and a lot of potential problems before they even arise. And the third thing is to practice pre-visualization. So like I said before, if you commit to just using one focal length, you're going to start to see the world around you in that focal length. It's an amazing thing. And when you're walking around, do a lap around the block before you even decide to lift up your camera. Do a visual warm-up exercise. See, what would this particular scene look like, using just your eyes? How would you compose it using just your eyes? And that alone is going to give you the confidence that when you do pull up the camera to take the photo, that last little bit, that actual, press of the shutter button, is the very last step, because all of the work has already been done before you even raise the camera up to take the photo in the first place. At the end of the day, street photography is all about being present enough to see the beautiful moments that are happening all around us every second of the day. And if you are worried and have that anxiety about zooming in or zooming out or being noticed or this and that, that completely prohibits you from being absorbed in the scene. So again, by using a 35 or a 50 millimeter, it just becomes a natural extension. The camera and the lens becomes a natural extension of what you're already seeing. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for this week's video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, all of that good stuff. And in the comments below, let me know what your default focal length is and why you ended up choosing it. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you in the next video.